An alien princess crashed into my backyard. My mother says you're the chosen breeder. The cosmic arrival Elias. Mercer wiped the sweat from his brow as he carefully trimmed the leaves of his prized orchids. The greenhouse behind his countryside cottage was his sanctuary, a place where the botanist could lose himself for hours among his rare plant collection. At 32, Elias had chosen solitude over the bustle of academic life, leaving his research position at the university to cultivate his own experimental hybrids in peace. The evening had been perfect for stargazing, clear skies with the meteor shower predicted to peak around midnight. He had set up his telescope earlier but became absorbed in his work, losing track of time as he often did. A sudden flash of light streaked across the sky, brighter than any meteor he'd ever witnessed. It illuminated the greenhouse with an eerie blue glow, before disappearing behind the hill that bordered his property. The ground trembled slightly, and several of his potted specimens wobbled on their shelves. That was no meteor, Elias muttered, setting down his shears. Curiosity pulled him outside, where he could see a faint glow emanating from his wildflower meadow. As he approached, the air felt charged with an unfamiliar energy that made the hair on his arms stand on end. In the center of crushed wildflowers lay a sleek, oval-shaped object about the size of a small car. Its surface shimmered with an iridescent quality that seemed to change colors when viewed from different angles. Steam rose from the cooling metal as Elias cautiously approached. Before he could examine it further, a seam appeared along its side, widening into an opening from which a soft light spilled onto the damaged flowers. Elias froze, his heart pounding against his ribs as a figure emerged. She was humanoid but unmistakably not human. Her skin was a soft lavender purple that seemed to glow from within, covered partially by a form-fitting garment that resembled liquid silver. Her features were delicate yet strong, high cheekbones, almond-shaped eyes that gleamed like amethysts, and hair that cascaded down her back in waves that shifted between deep purple and midnight blue. "You are Elias Mercer," she stated in a melodic voice that somehow sounded both foreign and perfectly understandable to his ears. It wasn't a question. "I am," he confirmed, fighting the urge to retreat. "And you are?" "I am Lyravex, daughter of Supreme Matriarch Zelavex, ruler of the Azurian Dominion." She took a step toward him, moving with a fluid grace that seemed almost weightless. "Our scientists have identified you as the ideal genetic complement to our royal bloodline." Elias blinked rapidly, trying to process her words. "I'm sorry, what?" "My planet faces extinction, Elias Mercer. Our genetic diversity has diminished to critical levels after centuries of isolation. Without new genetic material, my people will not survive another 3 generations." She reached out, her fingers stopping just short of touching his face. "You possess unique genetic markers that could save my species." "This is a lot to process," Elias stammered, taking a small step back. "Why me? There are billions of humans." Lyravex's expression softened slightly. "It is not random. Your work with plant hybridization demonstrates your understanding of genetic compatibility and your DNA. It resonates with ours in a way our scientists have never seen before." A rustling sound from the spacecraft drew her attention. She turned swiftly, tension evident in her posture. "We must move away from here. My arrival may have been detected." "Detected by whom?" Elias asked, suddenly aware of how exposed they were in the open meadow. "Those who would prevent our alliance. There are factions among my people who fear outside influence." She gestured toward his cottage. "We should seek shelter while my vessel enters camouflage mode." As if responding to her thoughts, the spacecraft began to shimmer and gradually blend with its surroundings, becoming nearly invisible except for a slight distortion in the air. Elias led her toward his cottage, his mind racing with questions. As they reached his door, Lyravex paused, her eyes meeting his with an intensity that made his breath catch. "I understand this is unexpected," she said softly, "but I believe our meeting was written in the stars long before either of us drew breath. My mother, the Supreme Matriarch, has declared you the chosen one to help continue our lineage." Elias opened the door to his cottage, wondering how his life had changed so dramatically in the span of minutes. "Let's start with some tea," he offered weakly, "and you can explain exactly what being the chosen one entails." As he closed the door behind them, the night sky above his cottage glittered with stars, one of which, he now realized, might be the home this mysterious woman had traveled from, carrying with her a destiny that would forever alter his quiet existence. Alien Customs' human heart Elias set a steaming mug of chamomile tea before Lyravex, who examined it with curious eyes. His cottage, filled with botanical illustrations and shelves of reference books, suddenly seemed small with her presence filling the space. "Our scanners indicated your preference for plant-based beverages," Lyravex said, carefully lifting the mug. She inhaled the steam before taking a tentative sip. Her eyes widened slightly. "This is pleasant." "It's just tea," Elias replied with a nervous laugh. He sat across from her, trying not to stare at the subtle luminescence of her purple skin or the way her hair seemed to contain galaxies when it caught the light. "Now about this chosen one business. On Azarea, genetic compatibility is sacred," Lyravex explained. "Our civilization advanced beyond emotional pair bonding centuries ago. We select partners based on genetic profiles to strengthen our species." She placed her mug down, her movements precise and graceful. "However, our isolation has led to a crisis. New genetic material is essential for our survival." "So I'm, what, a donor?" Elias asked, feeling increasingly uncomfortable. Lyravex tilted her head. "You would be honored as the Terrigenesis partner to the royal bloodline. Your offspring would become the bridge between our worlds, bringing strength to our people." Elias nearly choked on his tea. "Offspring? Listen, I'm flattered, but this is moving rather quickly." "Is 3 solar cycles insufficient for human courtship rituals?" she asked with genuine confusion. 3 days? "Definitely insufficient," he confirmed. "Humans typically date for months or years before even considering children." Lyravex's brow furrowed. "I see. Your species prioritizes emotional connection over genetic optimization." She considered this. "Perhaps adaptation to your customs would be prudent. How about we start with getting to know each other?" Elias suggested. "What's your world like?" Her expression softened. "Azarea orbits a binary star system. Our cities are built within crystalline forests that amplify solar energy. As royal botanist, you would be fascinated by our bioluminescent flora." "Royal botanist," Elias repeated. "Of course, your expertise would be valued. Not just your genetic material," she said, as though this should be obvious. As the night progressed, Lyravex revealed more about her world, its 3 moons, the aquamarine oceans, and the pressure she faced as the daughter expected to save her species. Gradually, her formal demeanor relaxed. When she described the crystal gardens of her childhood, her eyes shimmered with something Elias recognized as longing. "You miss home," he observed gently. "I have not permitted myself such emotions," she replied, but her voice wavered. "My duty supersedes personal sentiment." "That sounds lonely," Elias said, surprising himself by reaching across the table to touch her hand. The contact sent a tingling sensation up his arm. Lyravex looked startled but didn't pull away. Instead, she turned her hand to entwine her fingers with his, 5 slender digits meeting his own. "Perhaps there is wisdom in human customs after all," she whispered. Later, Elias prepared his spare bedroom. Lyravex examined the quilted blanket with fascination. "The patterns resemble the sacred geometry of our temples," she noted. "My grandmother made it," Elias explained. "She said every stitch carried her thoughts of love for whoever would use it." Lyravex ran her hand over the fabric. "On Azarea, we believe energy transfers through creation. Your grandmother's love remains in this object." Their eyes met, and Elias felt something shift between them, a recognition of shared understanding across the gulf of stars that separated their origins. "Rest well, Lyravex," he said softly. "And you, Elias Mercer," she replied. "Tomorrow I must show you my ship's database. You need to understand the full implications of the alliance my mother envisions." As he closed her door, Elias wondered how his life had become a science fiction story overnight. Yet beneath his disbelief was a growing curiosity about the woman from the stars, not as an alien princess or the key to saving her species, but as a person carrying the weight of worlds on her shoulders. In his own room, Elias gazed out at the stars, now seeing them not as distant lights but as potential homes to countless civilizations. Somewhere among them was Azarea, the world that had sent Lyravex to find him. "What have I gotten myself into?" he whispered to the night sky. The hunter's arrived dawn broke with an unnatural silence. The usual chorus of birdsong was absent. putting Elias immediately on edge. He found Lyravex in his greenhouse communing with his orchids, her fingertips hovering just above the petals which seemed to reach toward her. "They respond to your bioelectric field," she explained without turning. "Your hybrids possess remarkable sensitivity." "Something's wrong outside," Elias said. "The birds are quiet." Lyravex's body tensed. "The sentinels. They found me sooner than I anticipated." "Who?" Elias moved closer to the window, scanning the tree line. "Elite trackers from the purest faction. They believe Azurea should solve its genetic crisis internally." Her voice dropped. "They would rather see our species fade than blend with others." As if summoned by her words, a shimmer appeared at the edge of the property, a distortion that gradually revealed a craft similar to Lyravex's but larger, and adorned with sharp, angular protrusions. "We need to leave now." Lyravex moved with sudden urgency, grabbing Elias's hand. "Is there a rear exit?" Heart pounding, Elias led her through the back of the greenhouse into the woods behind his property. They had barely reached the cover of trees when a blast of energy struck his cottage, sending splinters of wood and glass flying. "My home!" Elias cried, watching flames engulf the structure. "I'm sorry," Lyravex said, genuine anguish in her voice. "This is my fault. Who are these people? Why would they?" "The purists believe I've committed treason by seeking outside help." She pulled him deeper into the forest. "My mother's decision to send me was controversial. Some would rather die out than change." They ran until Elias's lungs burned, finally stopping at a small stream. Lyravex pressed a concealed pattern on her wrist device, which projected a holographic map. "My ship has engaged its emergency protocol and relocated 2 kilometers east," she said, studying the projection. "If we reach it, we can escape." "To where?" Elias asked, the reality of his situation sinking in. His home was destroyed and alien hunters were tracking them. "Initially to orbit, then—" She hesitated. "I had planned to return to Azurea with you, but now we must consider alternatives." A distant crashing sound spurred them into motion again. As they navigated the increasingly dense forest, Lyravex explained that the sentinels would be tracking her unique biological signature. "They're relentless," she said, "trained from birth to hunt with single-minded focus." They reached a small clearing where Lyravex's ship waited, its camouflage partially lifted to reveal its sleek form. Just as they approached, a searing beam of energy cut through the trees, narrowly missing them and scorching the ground. Inside, Lyravex pushed Elias toward the opening that appeared in the ship's side. The interior was surprisingly spacious, with curved walls that pulsed with soft light. Lyravex moved to what appeared to be the control center, her hands dancing over symbols that responded to her touch. "They've deployed a gravitational anchor," she said, frustration evident. "We can't achieve escape velocity." Through the ship's transparent viewing panel, Elias could see 3 tall figures emerging from the forest. Like Lyravex, they had purple skin, but theirs was darker, almost indigo, and they wore armor that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. "Can we fight?" Elias asked, searching for anything resembling a weapon. "This is a scientific vessel, not a warcraft," Lyravex replied. Her fingers worked frantically over the controls. "There is another option, but it's dangerous." Before she could elaborate, the ship shuddered as an energy beam struck its side. Warning symbols flashed across the control panel. "We have no choice," Lyravex decided. She pulled Elias close, her eyes locking with his. "Do you trust me?" The question hung between them, absurd given they'd met less than a day ago. Yet something deeper than logic made Elias nod. "I trust you," he said. Lyravex pressed her palm against a crystal embedded in the control panel. "Emergency transverse jump initiating," announced a melodic voice. "What's happening?" Elias asked as the ship began to vibrate. "We're attempting to phase into subspace without achieving standard velocity," Lyravex explained, bracing herself against him. "It's never been tested with a human passenger." The world outside the viewing panel began to distort. The sentinels raised their weapons, but their movement seemed to slow as reality itself stretched and twisted. Elias felt a strange pressure building in his ears, and his vision blurred at the edges. "Hold on to me," Lyravex whispered, wrapping her arms around him. "Focus on my voice." As the ship phased between dimensions, Elias clung to Lyravex, burying his face against her shoulder. Her scent reminded him strangely of night-blooming jasmine, familiar yet alien. In that moment of transition between worlds, with the laws of physics bending around them, He realized how quickly she had become his anchor in a universe suddenly larger and more dangerous than he had ever imagined. "Stay with me," she murmured, her lips close to his ear as the universe outside ceased to make sense. "We're crossing the void together." Elias closed his eyes, holding tighter to the woman from the stars as they fled across the boundaries of space-time, leaving behind the ruins of his old life and racing toward an uncertain future among the stars. Sanctuary in the stars. The ship rematerialized with a violent shudder. Elias collapsed to his knees, his stomach lurching as though he'd been turned inside out. Lyra Vex knelt beside him, her cool palm pressed against his forehead. "Breathe slowly," she instructed. "Human physiology isn't adapted for transverse jumps." When the dizziness subsided, Elias looked up at the viewing panel and gasped. A massive ringed planet dominated the view, its surface swirling with storms of amber and gold. "Where are we?" "The Cressida system," Lyra Vex replied, helping him to his feet. "A neutral territory beyond Azurian jurisdiction. The Sentinels won't follow us here. Why not? This system is protected by the Galactic Concord, an alliance of species dedicated to preserving interstellar peace." She guided him to a curved bench that extended from the wall. Even the purists respect Concord boundaries, usually. The ship drifted toward a small moon orbiting the gas giant. As they approached, Elias could make out artificial structures on its surface, gleaming domes connected by transparent tubes. "Is that a city?" "Meridian Station," Lyra Vex confirmed. "A diplomatic outpost and trading hub. Many species coexist here." She pressed several symbols on the control panel, and a holographic figure appeared, a being with 4 arms and iridescent skin. "Ambassador Lyra Vex," the figure greeted her. "Your arrival is unexpected. Necessity forced our hand, Coordinator Jim. I seek sanctuary for myself and my human companion." The being's multifaceted eyes shifted to study Elias. "A Terran? Most unusual. Your request is granted under Protocol 7. Docking Bay 12 awaits." As the transmission ended, Elias turned to Lyra Vex with wide eyes. "Ambassador? You didn't mention you were a diplomat." A faint purple flush darkened her cheeks. "Royal responsibilities include diplomatic functions. I've represented Azuria at Concord meetings for 3 cycles." She hesitated. "There's much we haven't had time to share." The ship glided into a crystalline docking structure. Through the viewport, Elias could see beings of various forms moving about, some humanoid, others wildly different from anything he'd imagined. "Will I be safe here?" he asked. "Safer than on Earth," she assured him. "But we must register you as my formal consort to ensure diplomatic protection." "Consort?" Elias repeated, heat rising to his face. "A diplomatic designation only," she explained quickly, though something in her expression suggested it wasn't so simple. "It grants you protected status." Before disembarking, Lyra Vex retrieved a small device from a compartment. "This translator will help you understand other species. It also monitors your vitals and alerts me if you experience distress." She fastened it to his wrist, her fingers lingering against his skin. The contact sent that now familiar tingling sensation up his arm, and their eyes met. In the confined space of the ship, Elias became acutely aware of her proximity. The gentle rise and fall of her chest, the subtle glow that seemed to emanate from beneath her skin. "Lyra," he said softly, shortening her name for the first time. "What happens now?" "Now we seek allies," she replied, her voice equally quiet. "And I must contact my mother to inform her of the purest attack." Outside the ship, Meridian Station was a symphony of sights, sounds, and scents. Beings from dozens of worlds moved through the wide corridors. Some glanced curiously at Elias, but none showed hostility. Lyra Vex led him to a structure she called the Diplomatic Quarter, where they were assigned living quarters, a spacious suite with curved walls that changed color to reflect the occupants' moods. "The walls are responding to your emotions," Lyra Vex observed as the room shifted to a deep blue. "You're overwhelmed." 24 hours ago I was pruning orchids," Elias said with a weak laugh. "Now I'm on an alien moon with a purple-skinned ambassador who says I'm the key to saving her species." He sank onto a cushioned surface that molded to his form. "It's a lot to process." Lyra Vex sat beside him, the distance between them carefully measured. "I understand. This isn't what you chose." "It's not what you chose either," Elias pointed out. "You're following your mother's orders, carrying the weight of your entire species." Surprise flickered across her features. Most focus only on how my mission affects them. You see the burden I carry. I'm starting to see you, Lyra, he said gently. Something shifted in her expression. A softening. A vulnerability. On Azurea, I am defined by my royal blood, my genetic potential. Here, she paused. Here with you, I'm discovering parts of myself I never explored. Impulsively, Elias reached for her hand. This time, the tingling sensation was accompanied by a warm pulse that seemed to flow between them. The room's color shifted to a deep violet with threads of gold. What does this color mean? He whispered. It means, she said, her voice dropping to a whisper, that perhaps there is more to compatibility than genetics. Later, after Lyra Vex had contacted her mother via a secure channel, they stood on a balcony overlooking the vast dome of Meridian Station. Above them, stars shone through the transparent ceiling, and the great ringed planet filled half the sky. My mother was disturbed by the purist's bold action, Lyra Vex said. She's convening the Royal Council to address the faction's growing influence. And us? What did she say about your mission? Lyra Vex turned to face him, the alien starlight playing across her features. The mission remains unchanged, but she granted me autonomy in its execution. A small smile curved her lips. I am to follow the human custom of courtship before proposing genetic alliance. That's thoughtful of her, Elias said, returning her smile. There's more, Lyra Vex continued. A conquered scientific vessel will arrive tomorrow. The captain is an old ally who can help us formulate a plan to address both the purest threat and Azurea's genetic crisis. As night cycled through the station, they shared a meal of exotic fruits and synthesized proteins that the food dispensers assured were compatible with human physiology. They talked for hours about Earth's ecosystems, Azurea's crystal forests, and the strange twist of fate that had brought them together. When exhaustion finally overtook them, Elias retired to a sleeping chamber that adjusted its environmental settings to Earth-normal conditions. As he drifted toward sleep, he realized that despite the danger and uncertainty, he felt more alive than he had in years. In the adjoining chamber, Lyra Vex performed the meditative ritual of her people, aligning her energy with the cosmic currents. But her thoughts kept returning to the human botanist whose compassion and curiosity had begun to awaken feelings she'd been taught to suppress in service to royal duty. Between them, the wall pulsed with a warm amber glow, reflecting emotions neither was yet ready to name but both were beginning to feel. Worlds entwined Captain Thorn of the Concord vessel. Starweaver was nothing like Elias expected. The tall, elegantly proportioned being had skin that shifted like oil on water, and spoke in musical tones that the translator rendered in a crisp accent. Ambassador Lyra Vex, Thorn greeted, touching 3 fingertips to forehead, heart, and then extending the hand outward, a formal Concord greeting. And botanist Mercer, your situation is most intriguing. They met in a private conference chamber within Meridian Station's diplomatic sector. Holographic displays showed star charts, genetic analyses, and political factions within the Azurian government. The purists gained support daily, Thorn explained, manipulating the display to show population centers on Lyra Vex's homeworld. They exploit fear of change, of diluting what they call pure Azurian essence. While our genetic diversity continues to decline, Lyra Vex added, frustration evident in her voice. 3 more birth centers reported viability issues last cycle. Elias studied the genetic charts with a botanist's eye for patterns. This reminds me of problems in isolated plant populations. When genetic pools become too homogeneous, vulnerabilities develop. Precisely, Thorn agreed. But the solution isn't as simple as introducing new genetic material. The cultural component is equally critical. What do you mean? Elias asked. Azurian society must be prepared to accept change, Thorn explained. This is why the Supreme Matriarch's plan was so brilliant. Not just a genetic alliance, but a cultural ambassador in you. Elias. Lyra Vex's expression softened as she looked at Elias. My mother saw what I'm only beginning to understand. This isn't merely about saving our species biologically, but about opening Azuria to new perspectives. The conversation shifted to strategy. Thorn offered the Starweaver as transport to Azuria, with the protection of Concord authority. The journey would take 12 Earth days, during which Elias would learn Azurian customs and history. That evening, as they packed supplies for the journey, Elias found Lyravex in their quarters, studying holographic images of Earth's diverse ecosystems. "Your world has such variety," she said with wonder. "Thousands of biomes, millions of species." "I've been thinking," Elias said, sitting beside her, "what if the solution for Azuria isn't just human DNA but biodiversity principles? Creating sustainable genetic diversity might require establishing connections with multiple worlds." Lyravex considered this, a network of alliances rather than a single injection of new genes. She nodded slowly. "It has merit." "It might also address the purist's concerns," Elias suggested. "Instead of seeing it as dilution, frame it as expansion, Azuria becoming part of something greater while maintaining its unique identity." She looked at him with new appreciation. "You think like a diplomat." "I think like someone who wants to help," he corrected gently. Their journey aboard the Starweaver was a time of transformation. Each day Elias absorbed knowledge of Azurian culture, from their intricate social hierarchies to their reverence for cosmic harmony. Lyravex, in turn, delved deeper into Earth's history and biology, fascinated by humanity's resilience and adaptability. And each night the space between them diminished. It began with simple touches, a hand on a shoulder, fingers brushing while sharing data tablets. Then came longer embraces, conversations that stretched until sleep claimed them, and finally, on the 7th night, a kiss that sent waves of bioluminescence cascading across Lyravex's skin. "That's never happened before," she whispered against his lips, her body glowing with soft purple light. "Is it bad?" Elias asked, concerned. "No," she said with a small laugh. "It's a response traditionally associated with soul resonance, a myth from ancient Azuria about perfect matches written in the stars." As the Starweaver approached Azuria, their relationship deepened into something neither had anticipated, a connection that transcended the biological mission that had brought them together. In the privacy of their quarters, they discovered the ways their bodies could communicate across the gulf of different evolutionary paths, finding harmony in the language of touch and tenderness. "I never imagined this," Lyravex confessed one night, her head resting on his chest. "I came to Earth prepared to fulfill a duty. Instead I found a partner?" Elias suggested, running his fingers through her starlit hair. "Yes," she agreed. "Not just genetically compatible, but spiritually aligned." Azuria appeared first as a sapphire jewel against the blackness of space, then grew into a world of breathtaking beauty. Crystalline cities glittered among forests of towering, luminous vegetation. 3 moons hung in perfect alignment as they descended toward the capital. The landing platform was filled with officials in ceremonial attire. At their center stood a commanding figure, a woman whose resemblance to Lyravex was unmistakable, though her skin was a deeper violet and her bearing radiated authority. "The Supreme Matriarch," Lyravex whispered to Elias as they prepared to disembark. "My mother." She squeezed his hand. "Ready?" Elias took a deep breath. "As I'll ever be." The Azurian air carried scents of crystal flowers and electric possibility. As they walked down the ramp hand in hand, Elias saw the future unfold before them. Not the one originally planned by distant scientists, but one they would forge together. The Supreme Matriarch stepped forward, her calculating gaze assessing Elias before shifting to their joined hands with subtle approval. "Welcome to Azurea, Botanist Mercer," she said in a voice that carried both warmth and unquestionable authority. "I see my daughter has found not just a genetic match, but a heart companion." "Mother," Lyravex said formally, "I present to you not just the solution to our crisis, but a new vision for Azurea's future." As they walked together toward the Crystal Palace, Elias spotted figures in the shadows, purists watching with wary eyes. The path ahead would not be easy. There would be resistance, political maneuvering, and the complex task of bridging 2 vastly different worlds. But as Lyravex's hand remained firmly in his, Elias felt a certainty that transcended logic. Sometimes the universe had plans that defied probability, bringing together a quiet botanist and a royal alien across the vast emptiness of space to create something neither could have imagined alone. That evening, standing on a balcony overlooking the crystal forests of Azurea, their bodies illuminated by the light of 3 moons, Elias and Lyravex sealed their commitment with an embrace that bridged galaxies. When I crashed into your garden, Lyravex whispered, I was seeking a savior for my world. And what did you find instead? Elias asked, tracing the luminescent patterns that appeared on her skin wherever he touched. She smiled, her eyes reflecting starlight. A partnership written in the cosmos, proof that even across the gulf of stars, hearts can find their counterparts. As they kissed beneath alien constellations, neither could say with certainty what challenges tomorrow would bring, but of one thing they were sure. The future of two worlds would be written together one page at a time by hands intertwined across the boundaries of space and species. In the crystal gardens below, new hybrid flowers began to bloom, earth orchids grafted to Azurian crystal stems, their petals capturing starlight and transforming it into colors never before seen on either world. Like the botanist and the princess, they represented the beginning of something entirely new. A harmony of differences creating strength through diversity, a testament to the power of connection across the cosmic void.